All right, I think we're recording.
Mhm.
I am excited here to have Stefan. Oh boy, he just told me how to pronounce it. Let's try.
Ionescu.
Ionesco,
Yeah.
um, creating, uh, the holy grail and of governance of stable. It's not a stable coin. I love the idea of something like, we talk about DAI as a decentralized stable coin. It's very important, but there's a lot of governance involved. There's a lot of potential problems with DAI. And before I talk too much, you know, Stefan has a creation here that he's working on for a type of stable coin, maybe that has almost no governance or less governance. Let him explain it, and then we'll get into questions and try to understand how it works. So, what is RAI?
Cool. So RAI is what DAI was supposed to be about 5 years ago when the initial maker team proposed the design for DAI. RAI is a stable asset that is backed only by Ether, so it's very similar to single collateral DAI. The only difference is that instead of having a peg, so one value that RAI is always supposed to come back to, RAI will be floating around. So the peg will always move. It won't just stay, for example, at $1. It will move up or down according to what the market does. And it will always react to what the market is doing on exchanges so that it tries to stabilize the system and it tries to incentivize people to do what it wants.
So, this is the part I think that confuses people is, the term stable coin. I mean, I don't even like that term. I like to call them dollar pegged tokens.
Right.
And then we get into the issue. Well, it's not exactly pegged, but it's pegged. And then now you're saying, well, I don't know if you even use the term stable coin, but now then as you explain it, well, it's not stable. The target moves.
Yeah.
How do you explain, why is it stable if it's moving? How do you sort of explain that? I think I have an idea in my head how I would, but how do you explain that to people?
I always like to ask people about what the US dollar is pegged to. And the correct answer is nothing. The US dollar is, in a way, self-referential. The stability is in the fact that it's liquid. Everyone thinks it's stable, so it's more of a narrative. And this is kind of very similar with RAI. It's kind of a narrative that the target is moving, and we expect that the market will do something in response to that target moving up or down. So it's self-referential. It only cares about itself, and it's kind of stability in the sense that the volatility of that target moving up or down is lower than something like Ether, for example. It's kind of moving very slowly up and down, and the market should follow it, and it should not kind of diverge a ton from what the market price is on exchanges, because the target price, what the system wants the market price to be, and the market price are two different kind of indices, and they should always be kind of very close to each other.
Right. I mean, especially now with the dollar, a lot of people are afraid of inflation. I've been thinking we have deflation coming for a long time,
Mhm.
but I'm starting to feel like I think inflation might be coming. And when you think about it, I'm just like, you could see prices move. If well, yeah, the dollar itself can be volatile if prices are rising, and even with deflation. So that's a good explanation. Now, so let's first talk a little bit about. It took me a long time to really understand how this works, and I'm not even going to say I'm a total expert. I usually learn by doing. You
Mhm.
had an experiment up, and actually, let's talk about the experiment just for a second. You put up a test version of this system,
Yeah.
and my understanding is it's gone pretty well. Um, can you explain what happened with the test? The test just ended, and maybe that gave you some. What did you learn from this test?
We will still be running the test for a couple of weeks to make sure that everyone can unwind their positions, get their Ether back and out of the system, and then we can shut down. So with the demo, we got to more than 600K total value locked in the system. It went way better than we expected. Um, People got to test kind of our app, they got to test our infrastructure, and the main thing we learned, and kind of everyone learned, the community also learned with us, is that liquidity will be extremely important for RAI. The mechanism behind RAI does not work well if there is barely any liquidity on an exchange like Uniswap, for example, because anyone can come, they can kind of play with the market, with the RAI ETH market. They can dump or pump the price, and the system won't be able to manage that. So the more liquidity there is on exchanges, on different exchanges, the better RAI will work, like any other stable asset. So that's the main thing that everyone should get from this demo. Not that kind of the demo was working perfectly, not that it was extremely stable, but that we should improve liquidity to improve the stability of RAI.
So let me see if I wanted to test the system myself, and I got in too late. It was closed already, so I didn't get to. I'm not as good at reading white papers as I am of doing things and then understanding. But I think I got it, which is, so I would go to your system like MakerDAO would be.
Yep.
You've used that. Lock up ETH, and then that allows me to borrow a certain amount of RAI.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I borrow 100 RAI, and just like with MakerDAO, at some point, if I want to close out my locked up ETH and get my ETH back, I'll need to return 100 RAI.
Yep.
Now that RAI trades around the world, and you have your Oracle will be Uniswap, or
So we have two oracles. We have an ETH oracle. In the beginning, we will start with Chainlink. We already partnered with them, and we deployed this on mainnet. And we will use, yes, Uniswap v2 for the RAI price.
okay. So there's something called, there's the redemption price and the redemption rate.
Mm-hmm.
So I borrowed RAI. If I let go of that RAI, as you said, it's not fixed price. It is the redemption price changes,
Mm-hmm.
and the point, there's the redemption rate tells me the rate at which that price will change by the hour.
Yes.
And that allows me, and so although it's a moving price, it's not that fast of a moving price, and we have the redemption rate, which tells us exactly how fast it's moving. So I may be able to say, geez, I'm going to need more RAI to pay back my loan. It's going to get more expensive over the next 2 days, or whatever time frame.
Yep.
So okay, and then I mean, that's basically
correct.
how it works. I mean, the point is, if I watch it, I have to still, with any of these pegged. I mean, I guess with the stable coin and the pegged ones, theoretically, you don't have to watch it because it's supposed to stick to the peg. All you have to watch is whether the whole thing collapses. Those usually work. It sticks to the peg until all of a sudden it all completely collapses and goes.
Exactly.
It's destroyed.
Yeah.
Whereas this is more of a much more granular, flexible sort of thing, but I'd have to watch it. But you don't have a sense of how much. Do you have a sense of how much it would change over a year? Like if I do, or what? Yeah, I don't look at it for 6 months. I come back. How much could it have moved? Do we know?
Well, given that it's market driven, kind of the market will decide this. If I were to kind of tell you a target that we have in mind at Reflexer, it would be kind of 10% or less in 1 year. So we don't want wild fluctuations. We don't want the redemption price to go crazy, because as you said, we want it to kind of be smooth and very slow so that people have time to react and it doesn't just go 100% in 1 second. So if I were to kind of tell you my preference, it would be maximum 10% or lower. In reality, it may be completely different, because the idea is that we react to what the market does. We don't react to what some governance system does.
Okay, so this is, for me, my outlook, I'm loving that we're finally in the bull market and now everyone's talking about prices going to the moon. And of course, now that we're here, all I'm thinking about is, okay, the crash is coming. What am I going to do for the crash?
Right.
This is why I don't have a ton of viewers because I'm never in the, I'm always too, a little too far ahead. But anyways, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to want to hide some of my money in stable coins.
Mhm.
And, I have an account at Coinbase, so I like some money in USDC,
Mhm.
I like DAI, but like you, I see long-term possible issues with it.
Mhm.
And then otherwise, I'm like, well, what else? I mean, well, there's the Gemini one too. GUSD is not bad for me because I have an account at Gemini. And then what else is there? These rebasing tokens, like what is it called? Empty set dollar and
Right.
ample. I've played with those. Those things I find to be just insanity. They're anything but stable and like just craziness. Maybe someday they actually become stable. I don't know. I don't consider those stable coins. Those are just to me gambling games, which might be fun and you might make
Mhm.
money at it, but it's I don't know. I don't see those as competition. So this looks like a third option. The
Yep.
real, bank backed by dollars, DAI, and now this is a third option.
Yep.
Is there anyone else? And I guess, and also maybe I want you to talk a little bit about this PID controller system
Mhm.
that you use. Are there any other competitors other than those types that I mentioned? That basically there's just two others, right? The dollar peg, the DAI, and then this. Do you feel like there's anything else out there trying? Oh, and I just saw yesterday, and you guys replied this Fay thing
Right.
launch. I was like, what is that? Is that cool? So who is there anyone else out there trying this approach or other approaches that you think might work?
Well, not this exact approach. So everyone has a different kind of, the technicality is different for every system. I would say that even Fay that we would like to work with, they look interesting. I still need to dive into the white paper. Um, they look interesting and we would like to work with them, but I don't know the exact mechanics behind the system. So I would say everyone has a different approach. I don't think anyone else is trying our approach, at least not for now. Um, but I would say that, as you said, I think we need more options and I think we need more kinds of stability on the market, not just pegged coins, but we need real crypto native stability that's not tied any government money and anything that's outside the blockchain. And that's the mission that we have at Reflexer, crypto native stability.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the timing on it, but I do feel that eventually, if crypto is as successful as I think it will, I think we will see a last gasp of by the governments to attack,
Mhm.
and it starts with Tether, and then they'll take over whatever. Coinbase is all legal and regulated until they need money,
Right.
and I
Mhm.
see them coming after them eventually, and then DAI could be next, and DAI has its weaknesses. So this is important at least in the long run. So um, how did your system? Do you talk about this much with your thing? This idea of it being based on a PID control. I don't know what PID stands for, but which is a system of reducing volatility that's used in other industries. Um, how did you come up with this system? Is this your idea?
No,
And basing on a PID control?
no.
Where
The
did this come from?
genius behind the idea that proposed the PID years ago is Nikolai. He is our current technical advisor, and he used to work at Maker, and he, with the original Maker team, made the Psi and DAI white papers and purple paper, and the initial code and designs for the PID controller. So it's not my idea. I'm just the monkey, and we are the monkeys that just build the idea.
Okay. And I like this thing about, and for those hearing this, I didn't know, I never heard of a PID controller until this. If you go look it up or whatever on Wikipedia or wherever, it is it's a system for reducing volatility, and they use it in. I feel like it's in machines. And what are PID controllers used in? Do you know offhand?
Navigation systems, robots, drones, especially. mainly robots. So anything electric or digital, you can find a PID controller. You can even find white papers on the internet where a couple of people found out that the central banks kind of approximate what a PID controller would do with the economy. So you can many types of control systems can be managed by PID controllers instead of humans.
Okay. And are you fine? You know, for me, I have always sort of believed. I mean, nothing. I mean, I say believe. This is sort of a fact. Like nothing is fixed. Everything flows. Everything is a wave. And but life is so much easier when we imagine that this is fixed and this is, you know, and so and the term, that's why I think this term stable coin has stuck, because oh, it's a coin, the price does not move, you know, and even that they move, you know, USD is fixed if you go to Coinbase, but if you're out, you know, on the exchange, it does move a little. um, have you had trouble sort of explaining this to people, whereas part of your stable coin explanation involves it's not exactly stable, and people will be like, well, I want something that's 100% stable. How
Right.
are you having trouble communicating this or getting people, you know, to accept it? Or
In the beginning, yes, because we didn't kind of have the exact responses for every question that we got from people. But in the meantime, when the people ask me this, I then go one level deeper and I ask, what is USD pegged to? And some people told me goods and services, which is completely false. USD is pegged to belief. People have been brainwashed to believe that something has value, and they are kind of, yeah, you can also have the many people say that it has value because you're forced to pay taxes with it, but at the end of the day it has value because you believe it has value. You believe that today and tomorrow it will have kind of almost the same value, and that's how it works. It's just pure belief. And RAI is also very similar. It's part game theory, kind of incentives, and part belief. It's exactly how what central banks do with fiat.
okay, so now you mentioned it works better with more liquidity. Is there a sense now in the test you got more liquidity than you thought you'd get, but on the
Yeah,
other hand, it sounds like you realized you needed more liquidity, you know, anyways
yeah.
than maybe you assumed. Do you know how much liquidity you need on this thing to keep it somewhat stable? And is that important right from the beginning? Like, you know, we have a chicken and egg situation, which is like, well, it's awesome if it's got a lot of liquidity, but no one
Mhm.
wants it until it has liquidity.
Mhm.
Or is there a reason for people to get in early? Like the redemption, the price will go up, or you know, you'll have, uh, you know, a reason to get in early, even though it's volatile, and then you know, it'll be better when it gets stable. Like, what's
We will talk about reasons to get in early, and we will post something on Medium in about 1 to 2 months from now. So stay tuned for that. But apart from that, we're working with block science right now. They are helping us with simulations and models for RAI, and we also discussed about kind of coming up with a number with a threshold for liquidity on Uniswap under which we need to pause the PID because it would be completely ineffective. So before we launch RAI, we will have that number. We will post it on Twitter and on Medium. We will tell the community about it, and we will clearly say, hey, if there is not enough liquidity on Uniswap, at least this amount of liquidity on Uniswap, we have to pause the PID. If it's more, great, the PID can work great. It cannot be easily manipulated, so that's fine. So yes, we will need to come up with a number and present that to the community.
and you're the incentive for getting in early sounds like you want to keep it a secret, but on the other hand, it just I'm curious if it's part of the system itself, like some of these things. You know, people talk about Bitcoin that someday, which I'm not sure, I don't believe, but
Mhm.
whatever. But the idea that, well, it's volatile now because it's growing, but once everybody owns it, it'll be stable. Is it that sort of thing, or is it that you know you're going to give some sort of rewards that is separate from the system to get people?
It's separate from the system.
Okay. Um, and what is our timing on this regarding? Is you did the test, or you're wrapping up the test?
Yep.
Is the next step actual launch, or what's next, and what's the timing?
Yes and no. So we still need to finish our research. As I mentioned, we still need to come up with that liquidity threshold that we need to have, and that will take at least another couple of weeks. So we are targeting anywhere between end of February and mid-March for an official RAI launch. We will most probably, after we launch, we'll most probably have a guarded launch phase that will take about 1 to 2 weeks to make sure everything is working well. No one is losing money, of course. We need to make sure that the system is performing as we expect. And then we will allow people to put more capital in.
Well, that's pretty soon. I mean, that's seem to
It's
be
very
moving
soon.
quickly here. I like it.
Yes and no. I mean, personally, I've been working on kind of learning about DAI since September 2018 and September 2019, sorry. And it took me kind of 6 months to discover kind of Metacoin, discover Amin, discover Nikolai, and then build a team. So we've been working on this for a long time.
How many people on the team now, and are you hiring more? Is it
Right.
rampant?
We're 6 people in the core team. We also have block science working with us, and we of course have Nikolai advising us on the tech side.
Okay. Well, I got excited about this right when I heard it because I feel like this is the world needs this, or something like it, to this rings a lot of bells in my thing of what it's trying to be stable, but it's not a peg. It's, I like that it's using this PID, which is as a proven system for dampening volatility used in other industries. And then the other thing is, I'm curious with this test too.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get? I went on when you sent me to the Discord. I was annoying him with email questions. It's funny. I'm so old. I love email, and people are like, I can't do email. Go to Discord. I go to Discord. I'm like, I don't want to admit I can't do Discord. I'm too old for that. But anyways, but I was on Discord. So all of these people, I'm like, where do they come from? How are there, so many people excited about this thing already? Do they just come from out of the woodwork, or did you do some sort of a big promotion? I mean,
it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I told the community that I really suck at anything related to marketing. So it came from Amin. He knows a lot of people. He can gather community around him and around his project. So you can thank him for all of that.
Okay. So, geez, I think that's all my questions. I mean, I'm excited. I think now people want to follow this, if people want to follow it, and to people. I mean, I'll talk about this in other videos to my followers, and on what the risk level may be here or whatever. And but I'm following it, and for me, if I'm definitely going to try early, right? But sometimes I'll just put in a couple dollars is my trying so I can learn and see how it goes. I learn by doing more than I learn by reading. So, but for those who want to follow and keep up with this thing and see if it works and test it when it gets going, what's the best way to keep up with what's happening?
I would say Twitter. You can find us at Reflexer Finance, and we also have a link to our Discord channel in the description.
Okay. You know what? And why don't you email me? I'll put the links in this video in the description. Any links you want to put for people to be able to follow.
Sure.
Did I miss anything? Anything else to talk about here?
This is what I think people should know. So we will launch in 1 month, 1 to 2 months from now. You can expect a guarded launch in the beginning. Then we will go more into growth. You can watch our Medium and our Twitter for more details and news, and we'll keep you up to date.
Okay, well, very exciting, and I look forward to this thing working. It would be great, and if hopefully in the next crash, I've got another safe place to hide and save all of my mad gains. So,
Great.
All right. Thank you, Stefan. Good luck. Keep me posted.